I'm Natalie. I currently attend Central Virginia Community College, and I'm currently majoring in engineering, finishing up my last year. I initially chose engineering just because I was so fascinated with the occupation in general. Being able to use real world technologies to solve issues that could happen or issues that we're trying to prevent um, is really interesting. And I think using math and science for that is going to drive our future. So that was kind of my intention going into it. Um, that's kind of what I want to end up doing in the future. So I'll be sticking with engineering as well for my next 2 years. And yeah, that's why I chose engineering in general. And I'm planning on transferring in the next 2 years. So I applied through the community college internship program hosted by the DOE. And it was a pretty long process with recommendations and essays. But once I submitted the paperwork, it was just a waiting game. And then a few weeks later, I got reached out to by a mentor at Argonne, and he's currently who I'm working under now. And he sort of explained the situation. He explained the project that I would be working on and what I'd be helping with. And of course, I immediately jumped up and I said, of course, I'll do it. And that's how I got brought here. And I've been working on some really cool stuff since then. Yeah, that's a pretty heavy question. I've been working on a lot of things. So when I first got brought on, the first thing I was doing was working with GREET. So that was comparing basically a past intern's information and simulating mine, and then kind of doing a side-by-side comparison, seeing how they were different and what changed from one simulation to the other. So that was what I first started out with, and then as the project progressed, I sort of moved on to a different tool also created by Argonne, which is A-Fleet. And from there, I've been doing sort of these simulations and analysis of engines. So anything on the road, and then also engines of everything that is not on the road. So I've been doing that and analyzing specifically the emissions that come from those. And hopefully the data that I'm using will be used in the next A-Fleet update for the tool. So as part of my internship, I would say a bit, I did work on it for a little bit, but the main, I was kind of doing year by year, but when I was actually doing work with GREET, I did actually take into account the actual, so if you look at a vehicle itself, when you first get it, it's brand new, you're gonna drive it a whole lot more than if the vehicle is like 20 or 30 years old. So for my work, I actually took the mileage or the average mileage of a car. So say when someone first gets it, they drive, 30,000 miles, and then in about 20 years, you're going to drive it maybe 10,000 miles to 15,000. So using that sort of timeline and then incorporating the GREET results with the emissions to kind of compare, if we were to set this vehicle out on the road now, and taking into account how many miles people are more likely to drive 10 years from now, we can kind of simulate this is the emission that's going to come from this car's lifetime up until the person isn't using it anymore. So it gives us a kind of general estimation. Of course, this was kind of rudimentary work. This was that we can use to update the GREET tool. So using the actual mileage of a vehicle all the way from the purchase to the disposal is what I was working on. So when I first chose my actual career path, I was sort of just in the realm of engineering or working in research and development. So I ended up settling on, I think, a career path that I would like to follow would be to eventually become a principal environmental engineer. So kind of in line with the things that I've been working with now and working with the tools that Argonne developed, I kind of got a bit more information on, what I might be working with in the future, and some kind of key concepts to look out for when I'm going into the field and developing, my career further. But for right now, I would like to say that I'm looking at eventually becoming a principal environmental engineer. So initially, when I was looking into careers, there were, of course, there's all sorts of subsets of engineering. There's like chemical and mechanical and all of that. But I really found a passion for conservation and working with the environment. But I don't really know about going out into, nature and doing it myself. But I think using the actual tools and technology that we have today, that will ultimately, over time affect our population and our health in the future is something that I was really passionate about, kind of doing work in the background to make sure that, 20, 30 years from now, people can enjoy the similar quality of life that we have now without having to worry about all the sort of, climate change and all of that going on. So I think creating a solution using the tools that we have now is something that really drew me to environmental engineering to begin with. And it's something that I want to continue working with. So maybe in the future, we can have some sort of tool or develop some sort of item that'll help us in that. So when I was looking into it, at least, this was a couple months back when I was sort of going on my career search journey. I know that entry-level jobs are a must, especially with this sort of field. To get more experience in either the company that you're working with or the actual occupation that you're looking to do. Being a fresh graduate is not really where you can just shoot up in the ranks. So I would say focusing on an entry-level job in a corporation or work that I'm interested in to begin with. So maybe an entry-level environmental engineer, of course, working under layers of people that look over your work. And then eventually, after several years of experience, moving up to maybe a senior environmental engineer, and then again, gaining more experience and moving on to a principal environmental engineer where I can oversee everyone's projects on a larger scale. Yeah, if someone were to come up to me and ask, what's the benefits of doing an internship and how would I go about getting one? I know when I first thought of the idea, it was kind of because I wanted to do something that wasn't classwork. I wanted to do something that interested me, that I didn't have to sit for, 4 credit hours to do. So I really wanted to do something individualized. So I went searching online for internships that were open and, what I had to do to get them. So that's when I actually stumbled upon the community college internship program, which was perfect because it was meant for community college students. And it's very similar to the SULI program for 4-year undergraduate students at universities. So you're kind of doing the same application process. And eventually you go through the same sort of vetting system as the 4-year undergraduate students, and you get matched up if the lab chooses you or if a mentor is available for your project that you're specifying, you can get chosen for it. But I think especially students from all around the country where there's opportunities around them, I would say looking into individual companies in the area, because it doesn't have to be, you don't have to choose an internship that is national. You can do something that's closer to home. For example, I know where I live, there's a lot of engineering companies in my area. And if I didn't do the community college internship, I could perhaps visit their site or speak to representatives from there and kind of get information of maybe there is a position there where I can kind of see what's going on for a few months. But it doesn't hurt to ask. And I think it's important to know that the worst they can do is say no. So to actually go out and apply is probably the biggest hurdle. And I think once you make it past that, you can kind of see how many opportunities will open up to you. And after doing an internship, you gain so much experience, not only with work that you want to do, but you gain experience, talking to other people. And, you may have the opportunity to speak with people who are really knowledgeable in a field that you may want to go into. So just having that sort of connection and being able to interact with those sort of professionals is already worth the experience, I think. And it's a lot more fun than, doing paperwork and writing and doing work in a class. So I think it's a very good experience that most people should do if they have the opportunity to do so. I would say so. I think after doing the internship and gaining more knowledge of things that I like to do and things that I don't like, kind of modified my career path because I knew I wanted to do something with environmental sciences, but I was still kind of messing around with the idea of maybe being an instructor or, going into teaching or doing something along those lines. But I think actually getting to do the work, I realized how much I kind of like working behind the scenes. And I like interacting with a smaller group of people and working on projects that ultimately lead to a greater goal, whether that be updating the tool or making some sort of device that'll help corporations in the future. I think it sort of narrowed down what I wanted to do. And I kind of get a taste of the corporate world and something that this might be what I can expect from, going into the field that I want. So I think doing the internship would definitely kind of steer you either in the right direction or it'll steer you in towards a path that you don't want. So in the event that I absolutely did not want to do environmental engineering, then at least you're getting that experience now and you don't have to commit just yet to a 4-year degree that you may not end up wanting to do. So it's important to know what you want and what you don't want, especially. And I think internships are great for that because you kind of get a taste without, committing yourself to it. Yeah, I think when completing the internship, I think it's really important to interact with the person that you're working closely with. And I know I definitely did this at the beginning of mine. I was very scared to talk to my mentor because I was scared of coming off as, like I didn't know anything or that I didn't know what I was doing. Or I was scared of making it seem like they had chosen the wrong applicant. So of course I was very on edge and I didn't want to talk to my mentor at all at the beginning. I didn't want to reach out first with questions, but I think as you progress, I think it's really important for everyone to know that you are going to have questions and you're not coming into this, they know that you're not an expert in your field. They know that you're coming in as a student and you're looking to learn something. And they give you the resources in order to do that. So when you do an internship, it can be very intimidating, especially meeting all sorts of students and faculty with all sort of accolades. But it's important to take that into account and take it as a learning experience. So eventually I did kind of come out of my shell and ask my mentor a lot of questions. I would be sending messages or emails to people and kind of, coming out of the box and doing things that you wouldn't normally do, but know that you're in an environment that they encourage thinking and they encourage, working individually and problem solving. But know that if you don't get the problem on your own, there are plenty of people that are out there that are going to help you, especially because you are learning.